Welcome to day 3 of the Greater Reset 5 Manifestation. How you guys doing? Some of y'all just waking up. Who was out late partying last night? They're not even here. That's why they're not here. And those of you who made it, we appreciate it. Guys, today is day 3. We are talking all about agorism and parallel networks. Thank you to everybody who's watching at home today. We have another full day of great presentations all about how to build parallel systems, alternative systems. Has anybody here in the room started to hear about this idea that maybe voting's not going to fix the problems we have? Maybe storming the Capitol is not going to fix the problems we have. Maybe we need to build new systems. Is that a concept more of you are hearing about, learning about, that alternative, parallel, counter systems? That's what today is all about, and we're going to be talking throughout the day about a man named Samuel Edward Konkin III, who is actually a big inspiration for myself and John. Give it up for John Bush, everybody, out here from Texas. And so today's focused on building parallel networks. We're going to talk about that in a lot of different ways. I'll tell you more about some of the talks in just a moment, but let's hear from John and his thoughts on parallel networks.
Thanks, Derek. So I hope everybody's enjoying their time down here in Morelia, Mexico. Shout out to the amazing community for welcoming us. You know, one thing that I always appreciate when I'm in Mexico is the presence of these little mercados and roadside stands and vendors and all sorts of stuff. Even in Texas, when you're driving by, you'll see some folks selling lawnmowers or clothing or fruit, right? And so when I see these open air markets, that's really for me what the essence of agorism is. It's all about markets, it's all about trading, it's all about doing business with one another. And the key differentiator with agorism and traditionally doing business is that agorism takes
You're buying, paying taxes on that. You're just going to the person and saying, we got a slight echo. You're going to the person and saying, I want to buy your tincture, or I want to buy your t-shirt. Got an echo? 1 second, guys.
What you're saying is just that profound. It's like agorism.
You have to hear it twice. Are we good now? Check, check. Okay, cool. So every time you buy something from somebody, like out here in our lobby, for those who are in person and those who are at home, you need to come. You're not paying taxes on that. You're going to another free person saying, hey, I'd like to buy your book, your shirt, your product. And instead of saying, I'm going to go ask the government how much money they want out of this, it's just two free people coming together and doing a voluntary exchange. That's how we believe all of life should be. We don't think the governments or anybody, or any other third party should have anything to do with that relationship. And the word agorism, it comes from the Greek word agora, the marketplace. And the man, Samuel Konkin, who came up with this idea, which we'll be talking about more today, we're going to play a tribute video to him later. He very much believed, and not just believed, but he showed with his research and his data, he was really coming from a scientific mind and looking at the collapses of government like the Soviet Union and other areas. And he could see that there was strength and power, and that no matter what the government does, no matter how much they try to clamp down, and I believe this is true even with CBDCs coming, it'll be harder with everything digital, but it's still possible. No matter how hard they clamp down, people will always seek to be free, and we'll find new ways to exchange. We'll go underground, we'll go to the side, we'll build a parallel or counter-economy system, and that's what we think is necessary. That what we're doing here this weekend and with the Freedom Cell Network is nothing short of trying to build a parallel alternative world, because we want, like, the children who are here to have an option. Do you want to go live in the smart city, technocracy, you'll own nothing and be happy world? Or do you want to come over here and be in the permaculture, geophilia, homeschooling, unschooling, healthy people, new energetic systems like Hakeem's working on? Like, that's the world we're trying to build. And we don't even really know what it's going to look like. That's the beautiful thing. None of us really know. But we know it's important enough to build it. And if we don't do it, guess what, guys? Nobody else is going to do it. So fortunately and unfortunately, that's our task. This is why we're here in this planet, to be the ones to build the next generation's systems of the future. You guys down for that? Cool. All right. Anything else you want to add, brother?
I just want to give a quick tip to folks, right? Practically speaking, we're talking about not paying taxes and doing things underground and evading the man. In fact, that's how Konkin defined counter-economics. Those actions that evade, defy, or avoid the state, right? So, of course, the Greater Reset is about as counter-economic as you get, everything we're doing here. But the practical tip is a lot of people feel like I got to comply with everything the government tells me because I don't want to put all that I've worked at risk. And that's completely understandable. We're not encouraging people to lose their property because they do a property tax protest. What I encourage people to do is do the inside-outside game. Continue on your regular life. Do what you need to do in order to not put what you've worked at risk. But really importantly is to start to build that outside the system game, communication, relationships, and trade. Because we're not very far off from the day where all this inside stuff is going to be so manipulated, so controlled. Maybe you can't even use the CBDC money system unless you're up to date on all your shots, where we're going to have to opt out. And I don't want people to be in a difficult situation because they didn't do their preparatory work. In all reality, we need to be transitioning completely to the outside the system game. So for those of you that fear there's too much risk involved with stepping outside the system, to be honest, it's more risky not to. So like Derek was saying, let us take up the banner, let us do the hard work so future generations aren't enslaved into a CBDC, carbon tax, digital ID scheme, and we can free the future generations that are yet to be born with. That is our work, and I'm really grateful to be joining you guys in that mission, and thank you to Derek and his team for putting this event together down here in Mexico.
All right. Give a round of applause for John Bush. Okay, so one more reminder before we get started. Our first speaker is in Spanish again, so if you don't speak that great of Spanish or want to go back there and get a headset, it's just going to be our first speaker today. And tomorrow and Sunday we will have other Spanish speakers. We'll let you know. So yeah, This is our task, to build the counter economy, to build the parallel systems of the future. That's what today is all about. So you're going to be hearing from presenters who are discussing that concept in different areas in different ways. And our first presenter is coming to us virtually. He's unfortunately not able to make it in person. He is here in Mexico and in a different part of this beautiful country. Not there? Not ready? He left? Okay, well, we'll get him back in just a moment. And well, I'll tell you more about the project he's going to be discussing while we get him back. He's going to be speaking about the tumen, which, anybody heard of tumen here in Mexico? It's an alternative currency that already exists here in Mexico. It's a physical currency. You know, they promote it like a game to avoid hassle by certain people. But it is truly an alternative currency that's already in existence, that's already being used in different places in Mexico, being accepted, especially in places like Tepoztlan, and there's some parts of the country that's very popular. And I think there's folks even here in Morelia who are using it and working on it. And it's just another great idea, another great way to promote alternative use of money, right? Because the whole idea of building a counter economy is this, and this is what, you got some right here, right? Let's show the tumen. These are some of the currency right here. Show it a little bit on camera there. For those who can see, it's kind of art, lots of art on there. So the beautiful thing about trying to build a counter economy, you know, a lot of times like you're going to hear about cryptocurrency, digital currency. I believe those are valuable tools, but sometimes we forget we can just make our own paper currencies. Don't tell the government, but we can actually do that. And we can find creative ways to trade and exchange outside of their systems. And the more we do that, the more power we're taking away from the state. This was Konkin's whole vision. He looked at, for example, the collapse of the Soviet Union. And if you know the Soviet Union as it was collapsing in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a huge black market. There was an underground economy that no matter how strong, you know, the totalitarian communist government was, even their own people were going to the black market, to the gray market, to the underground economy to exchange with each other. And what Konkin realized is that if more people consciously chose to take their money and their time, their energy, etc., away from these systems and putting them into new underground economies, we would start to create a parallel system that the government would have no control over. And in fact, just an interesting fact before we go to Marco, it is estimated that the worldwide underground economy, counter economy, parallel economy, whatever word you want to use, is actually the biggest economy in the world. More than $1 trillion, and especially in places like Mexico, like John was pointing out, there's a lot of business that's done here by cash. The government never sees taxes from that. The government never gets their hands on it, and that's a beautiful thing. But that's not enough. We need everybody who is working outside of the system to understand the power of it. And that's what Konkin said that our task was to do, was to create a consciousness in the people to help them understand that the most moral action we can do is to take our economic power away from the state. Because what does that money fund? Especially if you come from the US and other Western nations: war, violence, surveillance, death. We all know there's bombs dropping right now in other countries that are being funded by the US government. So if you're paying taxes, if you're feeding that system, which, you know, it's difficult to avoid it, but if you are, we're funding that one way or the other. And the idea that we can get out from that and consciously move our money and our time and our energy into new systems is what Konkin was focused on. So that's what we're all about today. And I think we're ready to bring Marco on. Marco, listo?
Hola, hola. Esperamos que sí, porque hay algún problema técnico, pero aquí estoy. Bueno, entonces, ¿ya empiezo? Sí, ¿verdad? Ok. Tuning y el regreso del dinero, mercancía y artística. Un saludo a todos. No estoy ahí con ustedes en Morelia porque estoy haciendo el 6º CISCRAC en México, que es justo esto: reflexionar y tomar conciencia que tenemos que craquear el sistema de una manera de modificarlo a beneficio de la comunidad y con espiritualidad. Por eso digo CISCRAC con Chulel. Y el punto de la modificación es mucho más sencillo que tener que cambiar el sistema, tener que salir del capitalismo, salirse del sistema, solamente modificarlo, transformarlo un poquito. Y pienso que la cosa más poderosa que podemos hacer es en el dinero, sobre todo porque no sabemos bien qué es y cómo funciona el dinero. Y por eso quiero empezar con una definición de Gertrude Gugman, que está escrito en el libro Money Creator del 35, y dice que anything having a conventional use as a medium of exchange and a measurement of value. O sea, el dinero puede ser cualquier cosa con un uso convencional como medio de intercambio y medidor de valor. Cualquier cosa, cualquier cosa. Y entonces la moneda y el dinero no serían sinónimos. Y entonces la moneda no es la evolución del trueque, no es la evolución del trueque. Esto es algo que tenemos que entender bien y más bien es la involución del dinero, la involución del dinero. Separar bien moneda y dinero es lo que quiero en estos minutos que estoy aquí con ustedes. Entender que no serían sinónimos. Desafortunadamente lo son, pero el concepto es que dinero es una categoría y la moneda es un tipo de dinero. Como decir que fruta es una categoría, el plátano es un tipo de dinero. Si no salimos de estos, no avanzamos. ¿Por qué? Hemos caído en el monopolio, en el único dinero con la moneda y fuera nuestra, porque la moneda ahora, la moneda nacional es de los banqueros, solamente nuestra es la moneda de metal, sea en Europa, que está escrito Italia, España, Francia, o aquí en México, donde viene escrito Estados Unidos mexicanos. Porque si pasamos a la moneda de papel, los billetes, ya viene escrito Banco de México. Y si pasamos al dinero electrónico, ya sabemos que los bancos comerciales son la mayoría privados. Y entonces, entender las 5 funciones del dinero es la clave. Común unidad de valor, facilitador del intercambio, medio de retribución, forma de pago de impuesto y reserva de valor. Y entonces, estos, pensando en qué unirnos, dejando de un lado la ideología, las religiones, tenemos que buscar algo en común entre derecha e izquierda, blanco y negro, socialista y capitalista, negro, burgués y proletariado, rico y pobres. Esto es, ponemos de lado las diferencias y buscamos algo que nos une. Y entonces, la invito es la creatividad. Tenemos que inventar algo para hacer circular la riqueza, los productos, los servicios y la sabiduría entre nosotros. Y entonces, ¿qué tenemos que hacer? Crear otras unidades de valores, que no sea solamente el precio o sea el valor monetario. Y puede ser el tiempo, un minuto de tiempo, o puede ser un costal de maíz, o puede ser el café. Y entonces, luego tenemos que crear otros facilitadores del trueque y del intercambio. Crear otros facilitadores. La moneda no es el único instrumento cuando no sea posible el trueque, cuando no sea posible regalar o cuando no sea posible prestar gratuitamente. Hay que entender que entre el trueque directo y la moneda existen otras cosas, de la cual vamos a hablar con el regreso del dinero mercancía y del dinero artístico y del ejemplo del Turing. Entonces, también tenemos que crear otros medios de retribución. Y ahí es bastante fácil crear otro medio de retribución, porque somos nosotros que decidimos compartir nuestro conocimiento, sabiduría, productos, servicios a cambio de un departamento, un carro, una bicicleta, la comida en un restaurante, un abrazo, una vacación, una mesa. Esto no falta trabajo. Escuche bien, no está faltando trabajo. Porque ustedes dicen que no hay personas que ayudar, dice que no hay actividades que promover, dice que no hay cosas que arreglar, reparar. Entonces el trabajo hay en abundancia. Lo que falta es el medio de retribución que queremos aceptar a cambio de lo que hacemos nosotros. Entonces esto de crear otros medios de retribución es totalmente abierto, totalmente abierto. Y otras cosas que necesitamos crear son otras formas de pagar impuestos. ¿Por qué que tenemos que pagar el IVA o el impuesto
Logos is reimagining Web3, using 3 primary protocols to develop a privacy-focused, neutral, decentralized tech stack. Nomos is private modular blockchains for cyberstates. Codex is a durable, decentralized data storage protocol that preserves knowledge without the risk of censorship. And Waku is a censorship-resistant protocol for private peer-to-peer communication.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.
Virtual presenters. Sorry for everyone at home who's trying to watch that. His connection is not that great. We'll see if we can get Marco back. Okay. All right, Marco.
Cuando se apaga solito. No. De regreso. Ah. ¿Pero dónde? ¿Me escuchan? Sí, yo me veo ahorita. Estábamos hablando de creatividad, ¿verdad? De crear otras formas por las 5 funciones del dinero. ¿Hasta dónde me escucharon? No. Repitamos que hay que crear otras comunes unidades, otra común unidad de valores, otro facilitador del trueque del intercambio, otros medios de retribución, otra forma de pagar impuestos, otra reserva de valores. Así que esto es en la práctica lo que tenemos muchas veces de esta teoría son axioma, dogma, postulado y paradigma que no es necesario demostrar. ¿Y por qué no es necesario demostrar? Porque no se pueden demostrar, podría ser. Por eso es bueno que nos basamos en cosas empíricas, experimento hecho. Y el Turing es el ejemplo de cómo estaba diciendo que la prueba la debe. Y que entonces puede lo de Turing. Así que está reconstruyendo tejido social, está demostrando en que podemos decidir a qué cosa dar valor, como tarjetitas, como esta de Turing, estas tarjetitas aquí. Decidimos que valga 5 pesos de descuento, otros 5 pesos Chiapas o Oaxaca, y demostrar que podemos decidir nosotros en qué creer. Funcionará solo a un 10%, esto solo a un 10%, es una manera para también prevernos a lo que ha destruido la moneda comunitaria, el vale de trueque en Argentina en el 2001-2002, con una falsificación tremenda. Porque el Turing es la antesala, digamos, la moneda Turing es la antesala al regreso al dinero mercancía. Porque con dinero mercancía es aquella clase de dinero cuyo valor, a diferencia del dinero representativo y del dinero fiat, proviene fundamentalmente del bien del cual se compone. Esto es, tiene valor en sí mismo, además de valor de cambio al ser utilizado por una o más funciones del dinero. Eso es. Si logramos entender algodón, piedra preciosa, leña, sal, metales preciosos, cinturones, plumas. Estas son cosas. Y el arte, ¿cómo consideramos el arte? El arte es también dinero. Si lo pensamos, el mismo pesos son grabados industriales, el dólar. Y entonces son grabados. ¿Por qué no utilizar un grabado que tiene valor intrínseco y puede ser el dinero mercancía? Porque entre el dinero mercancía, cualquier cosa puede ser dinero. De hecho, aquí leyendo desde el libro, desde el artículo de medios de cambio en el Perú prehispánico de Mario Ginocchio, podemos ver que los cazadores usaron posiblemente la carne y las pieles. Los pastores usaron la llama, su lana y aún la carne conservada. Los pescadores el pescado seco salado. Los agricultores los productos de la tierra de mayor aceptación, maíz, papa, algodón. Y en especial los productos estimulantes, coca, ají. Los alfareros su cerámica, los tejedores tela y ropa. La sal también constituyó un buen producto de canje. Entonces, el dinero en sí no vale porque es escaso. Esta es otra trampa. Digamos que la economía general está basada en este aspecto que la escasez es la base del valor. Cuando lo dijo bien Karl Polanyi, que existen otros valores en la economía que la utilidad, el agua, porque hay mucha no vale, quédate una semana sin agua y quédate una semana sin oro. Y entonces, esta parte de entender que entre el dinero y el trueque, o sea, entre la moneda y el trueque existen otras cosas fundamentales y lo aclaran con los objetos preferenciales, la aparición de objetos sobre los que la mayoría tiene preferencia, o sea, que siempre están dispuestos a recibirlo a cambio de sus productos, marca una segunda etapa en el trueque. Tales son las armas, hacha, alhajas, reses, simplificándose así el trueque, pues quien tiene este objeto preferencial puede con un solo trueque conseguir lo que necesita, evitando la doble coincidencia que origina el trueque directo. Además, sirviendo de común medida de valor, suprime la dificultad de acordar valor a cada mercancía con relaciones a muchas otras. Esto es el punto. Hay que entender que la moneda era oro, o sea, uno de los metales. Y entonces estamos padeciendo el monopolio del oro, que se ha vuelto moneda, que se ha vuelto billete, que se ha vuelto dinero electrónico y que se quiere volver dinero digital, Central Bank Digital Currency, que solamente funcionará con los celulares que solamente ellos producen y fabrican en Asia y que son encargados del monopolio de la distribución y de hacerlo funcionar. Entonces, esta evolución de la moneda no es la evolución del trueque, sino es la evolución de la esclavitud bajo control, reglas y órdenes de los creadores, de los alfareros que se volvieron banqueros y que ahora que se han vuelto dueños de Internet, dueños de todas las multinacionales, de aeropuertos, de medios de comunicación. Estamos en una dictadura escalofriante. Y si caemos en la dictadura del celular como billetera y del celular como documento de identidad, olvidamos la palabra libertad, olvidamos toda la lucha que estamos haciendo porque ya no van a funcionar, porque no van a desconectar con un sencillo clic. Y entonces, esto de los objetos preferenciales, que otros dineros son posibles, otro dinero, y entonces, y cualquier puede usar su propio dinero. El tuning, por ejemplo, la fuerza del tuning es que cada grupo que llega a 50 personas puede crear su propio tuning. Por ejemplo, el tuning Chiapas, el tuning Oaxaca, el tuning Agua, y esto es, y la fuerza la más poderosa fuerza del tuning es su medio de comunicación. Porque estos, controlando los medios de comunicación, es posible repetir una mentira 1000 veces que se vuelva verdad. Por eso el Gosni, que tiene 24 años, porque nació 10 años antes de la moneda. Por eso el Tumi logró promoverse y defenderse del ataque del Banco de México a través del Gosni, diciendo, el Tumi es de los mexicanos, cosa que no pasa con el pesos, que es de los extranjeros. Y entonces, el Tumi es una demostración que es posible crear tu propia moneda. Entonces nosotros, para desarrollar otro objeto, otro acuerdo para desarrollar las 5 funciones del dinero, podemos utilizar otras cosas que no sean monedas, porque esta es la moneda comunitaria o la criptomoneda, son solo alternativas a la moneda, pero no salimos del hoyo que cualquier cosa, como dijo Gertrude Gugan, anything having a conventional use, cualquier cosa con un uso, con un acuerdo previo que se pueda utilizar como una unidad de valor, facilitador del intercambio, medio de retribución, reserva de valor y pago de impuestos. Así que el secreto está en el crear algo, en el saber hacer algo. Por eso el sistema nos quiere todos empleados, para que así no podamos crear nada y seamos súper controlables. Entonces la idea de estos, del dinero artístico, como mejor, digamos, dinero mercancía, digo mejor porque no es perecedero, no ocupa mucho espacio, no pesa mucho y se puede hacer de diferente tamaño. O sea, todos los beneficios que nos han dicho sobre la moneda, que se ha vuelto el principal objeto preferencial. Habríamos que dejar de usar la palabra dinero para que entendamos, llamamos los pesos, llamamos los monedas. De hecho, moneda, si no me equivoco, en Japón e en China significa objeto redondo de metal. Y entonces es increíble cómo por falta de objeto redondo de metal estamos padeciendo toda una serie de problemas increíbles. Eso no es ridículo y absurdo. Y entonces la idea es que se comprometa un artista o más artistas, pero artistas con trayectoria, con compromiso social, que haga un grabado. Porque no digo que todos los grabados del maestro Antún Cocteau sean dinero artístico. No, porque le falta el uso convencional. Entonces yo digo que estos que se llama 50 Plan ECAM sea el nuevo otro billete de 1,000 pesos en México o de 50 euros en Italia. Y entonces, y un plan ECAM equivale a 10 pesos hoy. No, ya pasó. Cuando empezó valía 500. Ahora un plan ECAM equivale a 20 pesos, porque Antún, como es normal que pase con algunos artistas que aumenta la trayectoria, su obra crece de importancia y de valor, se ha duplicado el valor, de 500 pasó a ser 1,000. Entonces, si entendamos estos, entendamos que no tenemos que salir del sistema, no tenemos que pelear con capitalistas o socialistas, sencillamente hay que modificar el sistema donde podemos. Entonces, en lo que podemos hacer a beneficio de la comunidad. Por eso el mensaje del CISCRAC es justo esto, de unir aprendizaje, trabajo, diversión, espiritualidad y magia. Y que en estas cosas de aprendizaje, trabajo y diversión podamos ofrecer lo que nos gusta y que sabemos hacer a la comunidad. Claramente, quien no puede ya con estos, le invitamos a comprar entre nosotros, a que compre, por lo menos está ganando un salario, un buen salario, compra a las personas locales que están produciendo algo. No puede comprar porque también entendemos que tu situación económica es escasa, ayúdanos en la promoción. Entonces, estas son cosas que son prácticas, el que tenemos que hacer. Entonces, más crece la red, más crecen las redes de personas que producen algo que es bueno por la comunidad, de personas que compran entre nosotros, de personas que nos hacemos promoción, mejor vamos a reducir todos los problemas que estamos padeciendo y que vamos a padecer. Porque es interesante entender la puesta en juego. El sistema bancario no tiene miedo de ser sustituido, expulsado del juego, porque la digitalización de la vida o la parte electrónica, el hecho de comunicarse con el WhatsApp, puede permitir de crear sistema de crédito alternativo, complementario o alternativo al sistema bancario. Y podríamos dejar
Round of applause for Marco. We're going to have to let him go for now because the connection's not that strong. And I know there's some folks who are here in Morelia who came up to me yesterday. I can't remember your faces. I'm sorry. I'm meeting a lot of you who are involved in the Tumen. Anybody here locally involved in Tumen or just around Mexico? I know you had some. So if anybody wants to get more, please raise your hands high. Right here. There you are. come talk to these folks here in person if you would like to learn more about the Tumen. They've got some information, especially if you plan to be in Mexico and you want to help us build the counter economy here in Mexico. We've already got a project that's existing. Let's start to build it out and expand it, right? So let's make some noise for that. There's already some counter economy happening here. So we're doing well. And you know, when Miriam and I, we did some tours back in 2017 and 2018. We traveled the United States. And by the way, if you don't need the headsets anymore, please do take them back for our Spanish speakers. We traveled the United States, and we met many people who are also building similar projects. There was a project up in Humboldt, California. They had the Humboldt Bucks, and it was just a paper currency. Local artists created the designs, and they printed them, and they had dentists, mechanics, restaurants, all in this little town that were willing to accept this alternative currency. And it had been going on for, when we were there, at least, you know, a decade or more. And, you know, it maybe wasn't a perfect situation. There's still some things to figure out, like how much of this is this piece of paper worth? How do we decide that? And how do we exchange it? You know, there's still some mechanics to be worked out. But the point is, if we don't start, it's never going to happen. If we just keep using pesos or dollars or Canadian dollars or euros, which are all government money, well, then we're still participating in these slavery systems. And in fact, as John was talking about earlier, when all of the countries start rolling out CBDCs, and yes, even Mexico is one of the nations that has said they will eventually roll out CBDCs. Now, of course, it'll be kind of interesting to see how Mexico tries that with the lack of infrastructure. Maybe in Mexico City it'll be popular, maybe some other places. But the point is, they are working on it. And we shouldn't just think, I've gotten to Mexico, or I've gotten to Guatemala, or I've gotten to my little pocket in the US, and I'm going to be safe from these things. If you're using their money, eventually your money one day will turn into a digital currency owned by the government, which we know can be tracked, traced, and turned off whenever you say the wrong thing on the internet. Or as John mentioned, if you don't get the latest, what are they on? How many booster updates has it been? I don't know. 42? Yeah, I stopped after my first one. No, I never got the damn thing. But hey, I want to side note before we bring up our next speaker. It just made me remember this. Guys, we have a beautiful, diverse community. Does anybody like the diversity in this room? Like, look around here. Not only in like skin color, ethnicity, languages, preferences of music and food and all those kinds of things. I love that. I think that's a wonderful thing. And yesterday, one of our speakers was sharing some of their thoughts, and maybe they said a few words that triggered some people in here, or triggered some people online. And there were some comments we read last night that said, oh, if it's that kind of event where people say those words, well, then I'm done. I got emails last night. Is this what the Freedom Cell Network is about? Because if so, then I'm through with you guys. And imagine that. Imagine having such a weak will and a weak mind that one speaker in a conference of 45 presenters says a couple of words you can't handle, and you're ready to throw the whole thing away. That's not really the kind of mentality we want to encourage here. In fact, we want to encourage, if you hear something that you disagree with, maybe go outside and have a polite conversation with that person. Reach out to them, have a discussion, let's learn from each other. Because personally, we're not trying to build a movement of a bunch of zombies who all believe the same thing. That would be boring, and that's what the mainstream wants us to think, that, you know, we're all, so thank you. Let's encourage the diversity of thought, of people, of languages, of cultures, of spiritual beliefs. It's a good thing. It is a good thing. We don't all need to believe the same thing about every single, you know, topic. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And that doesn't mean you have to give up your beliefs either. You can stand firm and strong in what you believe and still learn from other people, right? All right. So we're going to continue now with our in-person speakers. This one I'm excited about because, well, I feel slightly responsible for this. So I offer a journalism course I'm going to tell you guys more about. It's in my TCRU, the Conscious Resistance University. I started doing this about 1.5 years ago. After doing 14 years of independent journalism, I figured I had some things to share. And actually, Echo was part of the class, and Melanie was part of the class. And we had my first, class teaching what I've learned from independent journalism. Turned out really well. And I told all the students, if you take this seriously and you have a platform, you have content you want to create, I'll post it on my website. I'll promote it. I'll interview you. I'll help give you a platform so you can get yourself out there. And well, Melanie took it very seriously and took the course and launched her own website, launched her own ebook, and now is a presenter at the Greater Reset. So I'm really excited to bring her on stage to share this with you guys, because that to me is just kind of emblematic of what can happen. You can come to an event like this, you can get inspired, you can get activated, and then you decide you have something to say, you have something to share, and before you know it, you're on the stage sharing your ideas with everybody around the world. So I invite all of you to follow through with whatever your passions are, and please give a big round of applause for Melanie Rubin of ParallelTimes.info, also one of our sponsors. Come on up, Melanie.
Is that on? Yay. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm hoping we're going to have a little fun with this presentation, because sometimes we get a little serious here in the world is falling apart and we're trying to find an alternative community. Okay, let me get myself organized here. Okay, so first of all, we have a little handout for this presentation, and you can see them scattered around like snowflakes here in the audience. So please get your hands on one of these. It looks like you could fall over and fall on one. It says TGR Introduction to Checklist and Blueprint. And you can set that aside for the moment, but before we get going, I just want to make sure that you have one. Does anybody need one? If so, please jump up and down. Everybody's got one? There's one over here. There's also a little stack under the first chair, and my wonderful partner Chris is going around with a box of them in case anybody needs one. Okay, so the other thing is that being here in beautiful, sunny Mexico, I feel a little weird talking to you in English. And so I just want to see a show of hands. How many of you identify as a primarily English speaker? Okay. And then how many of you identify as a first Spanish speaker? Okay, that gives me a good sense. Thank you. There are a lot of you. And how many of you identify as first some other language? Okay, thank you. That really helps me to know. So, I was not able to give this whole presentation in Spanish, which would have been my preference, but a few words. Me gustaría agradecer a Derek Bros y Miriam Gomez y a sus equipos por invitarme a The Greater Reset 5. Estoy muy emocionado y agradecido de hablar con ustedes. También me gustaría agradecer a todos los que son de México y de América Latina por recibirme en su hermoso país. And maybe next time I can do the whole thing in Spanish. You Spanish speakers, please help me get better. So I said that I'd like to thank Derek Bros and Miriam Gomez and their teams for having me at the Greater Reset 5. I'm extremely excited and grateful to be speaking with you. I'd also like to thank all of you who are from Mexico for welcoming me in your beautiful country. So let's get rolling. This talk is about a tool I've created for helping me, and hopefully maybe some of you, to get organized, to leave the matrix and join parallel society. So I'm curious, how many of you have seen the movie The Matrix? Okay, that's great. And how many of you haven't seen the movie The Matrix? It's okay to admit it? Okay, this came out a long time ago. It came out in 1999. And so I apologize that I don't have the Spanish translation of the trailer that I'm about to show, but I will be calling out some of the key phrases that you see after you watch the trailer. And I'm showing this because it's a common point of reference that we talk about all the time. And so it's useful just to see a little piece of it. So, and hang on to your seats because it's, you know, it's an action movie. So whenever you're ready, Derek, please. And
before the next chapter in the trilogy is released, renew your memory.
And watch this and jiggle around, please feel free.
Before the next chapter in the trilogy is released, renew your memory.
Whoa. Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
What is happening to me?
The answer is out there, Neo. It's the question that drives us.
What is the Matrix?
The Matrix is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
They're watching you, Neo.
Human beings are a disease. You are a cancer of this planet. And we are the cure. Get me the hell out of here!
Welcome to the real world.
No one has ever done anything like this.
That's why it's going to work.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
What is the Matrix?
Okay, how are your nervous systems doing out there? Is everyone feeling just a little hyped? I don't know about you, but when I go to the movies and I watch the trailers, by that time a half an hour of trailers are over, I'm like vibrating in my seat and I'm, you know, like need drugs or alcohol or meditation or yoga to actually watch the movie. So I would suggest that we all just take a deep breath. And let that one go. And I'm sorry, I probably should have edited it a little bit shorter, but I wanted to make sure that there were some key phrases that were included. And by the way, you know, this is public domain fair use that we're showing. Obviously, I don't own that material, but that is what is used on the internet to market this movie, so we can just consider this marketing for the movie company right now. Maybe you'll all go out and see the sequels. But as you probably know, The Matrix is part of a movie genre that is called disclosure movies. Have you guys heard that idea before? Okay. For anybody who hasn't, the idea is that the would-be controllers of the world have to tell you what they're going to do. And so they create, often in Hollywood movies, disclosure, which has a lot of actual truth in it. And so, where are we? Oh, thank you. Perfect. So it's kind of like the way a magician works. Because anybody out here magicians? Do we have any magicians in the audience? No magicians, and I can say stuff that's totally wrong and you won't know. Anyway, so I had the good fortune a few years ago to work with a magician to do a show for the release of one of my books. And so you see me there in this show that we were doing. And what I learned is that magicians do everything right in front of you, but they are distracting you from what they are doing so that they can create an illusion. And the controllers do the same thing, and part of how they're disclosing is through these Hollywood movies. So it can be useful to unpack what the Hollywood movies are saying. So we can go to the next slide, I think. So there's some things that this clip says. And Morpheus, Neo is the protagonist in the movie, and Morpheus is his mentor. And Morpheus says, have you ever had a dream that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from the dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world? And Neo says, what is the Matrix? And Morpheus says, the Matrix is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. And so this is like Jason Christoph's presentation the other day, which was fabulous, talked about how we get the wool pulled over our eyes. And we're the only ones who can pull the wool back off of our eyes. But if you understand how they do it, it makes it a little bit easier. And then in describing how they're going to save the world together, Neo says, no one has ever done anything like this. That's why it's going to work. So remember that, because that's why we're creating parallel society. No one's ever done this before, and that's why it's going to work. So we get some indications from this movie of what is it that's going to work, and you see it here on the slide. Taking action. Derek's been talking about this. Taking action. Key for manifestation. Love. Fellowship. Courage. Creativity. And an approach that's never been done before. But in this little clip, all of this is presented in classic disclosure movie style, mixed with lots of survival fear and nervous system overstimulation. And the way they do it is they show lots of guns. You know, right, that's conflating the idea that the only way to leave society or form something else is violence. Clearly, that's not what we're here about, right? So it's hard to know with this whole situation through the pandemic, we can go next slide, whether to laugh out loud, because it's like living, how many of you felt during the pandemic like you were in a really, really bad science fiction, Hollywood, B-movie, right? Like, oh my God, nobody's ever gonna believe this. This is so not credible. I think we lost the slides. So you don't know whether to laugh out loud, you know, and you're laugh out loud as you're going to the exit, right? Like, bye-bye movie. But meanwhile, here we are in this movie, in this crazy movie Matrix. So how do we get out of here? Okay, so I would say that there are 3 key points, if you take nothing else from this presentation, I hope you'll take away. Hopefully I can find them in my notes. Well, let's just read them off the slides. Thanks, I got the screen right here in front of me. What am I doing? Okay, so 3 key points. They've got this beautiful screen here. Manifesting parallel society is possible if we do it together. Point number 1. Point number 2, it starts with each of us committing to taking small steps to leave the matrix, because it's kind of a big project to leave the matrix. It doesn't happen overnight. So little steps over time. And as you prioritize your actions, every step you take moves all of us towards freedom. It's kind of like, anybody hear Eleanor's talk yesterday? And she was talking about the story with the frogs and how when the little teeny frogs work together, that they manage to do a big thing. Well, we can imagine ourselves like little teeny frogs that are working together to bring the rain. So a little bit more about me. My name is Melanie Rubin. I've already said that. I live in New Mexico in the United States, and I'm an instructional designer. That's my professional training. And what that means is that my expertise is in creating training for adults and putting together information for adults. And I've also been a national trainer and run national training programs, and I've done a lot of like marketing and outreach and video production. I was a video producer for public television. So when the pandemic started, I couldn't believe what was happening and what I was seeing. And I was freaking out. Like, if I could have quietly, discreetly found a bridge to jump off of, I might have done that. But it would have inconvenienced too many people that I love. So I decided I needed to stay here and do something. And so I got involved with the New Mexico Freedoms Alliance, which is an activist group that I'm one of the 3 executive committee members. And basically what we're doing is trying to resist the tyranny in our state, which is considerable. I would say that New Mexico has been one of the most tyrannical states during the COVID craziness in the United States. And we also created a national coalition for health integrity, which works with grassroots organizations around the United States. And I tell you this because I bet there are a bunch of you out there that during the pandemic turned towards activism. So I'd love to see how many of you got involved in activism. Okay, we've had our protests. We've had our legislation attempts. We've had our alternative whatevers that we've tried to do legally. And some of that has worked, and some of it, and I would say a lot of it hasn't. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I was using up a huge amount of my energy in resistance. And that was necessary, and it's still necessary. But I realized that if I didn't put the same amount or more energy and attention into creating the new world, that nothing I was doing was going to matter. And like Derek said this morning, I have some teeny weenies that are really precious to me, and actually today is my stepdaughter's birthday. And so I'm here doing this instead of there with her because it's that important to her that there be an alternative, right? There has to be somewhere for her to go when the shit hits the fan. If that was an unforgivable word, I apologize. Okay, so there's a quote from Annie Leonard, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we don't have enough time, but she talks about how if there were a river and you were standing next to the river and a bunch of drowning babies were floating by, of course you'd be running into the river to haul those drowning babies out of the river. But the real deal would be to go upstream and figure out who's throwing the babies into the river in the first place. And then, now during COVID, we've seen that you can't really stop the controllers from throwing the babies into the river, and they're trying to keep us distracted, hauling the babies out of the river. And so, the best thing in the end, I mean, I still have to haul some drowning babies out of the river, I don't know about you, but the best thing in the end is to create a new world where babies don't get thrown into the river in the first place, and that's our parallel society. Okay, so, and you heard this quote from Anthony the other day, so it's interesting you're getting the same quote twice in one conference, but Buckminster Fuller, who was a futurist, said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So, let's go on to the next slide. So where did this term parallel society come from? And what does it really mean? The term was coined by Czech Catholic philosopher and mathematician Václav Benda in the late 1970s based on the work of Ivan Hiras. And I'm probably saying those names wrong, and I apologize. So the term parallel society refers to social and economic structures that exist unconstrained by the state. The idea is to create better alternatives to oppressive, archaic state structures that are in the process of dying. Essentially, Buckminster Fuller's concept of a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Next slide, please. So I've created an information service called paralleltimes.info. It's on my t-shirt. Because there's so many of you out there that are doing brilliant work, and it's just a matter of getting it out there to the world. So I want to help share what's being done to move us towards parallel society. I'm not the creator of it. I want to cross-pollinate that information. So have blog posts and podcasts, and I'm just launching something called Parallel Times University, which I'll tell you about a little bit more later. Next slide, please. So what stops us from leaving the matrix? So I want to take a little comedy break here and show you another video, because in my family we have kind of a joke. Whenever anybody says, here's the tricky part, we think of this old commercial that was, this is where I'm going to date myself and you're going to know how old I am. But this old commercial that was for Fig Newtons. There will be prizes at the end of this talk. Except you probably don't want to eat these because they'll probably kill you with what's in them now. But Chris went out to the grocery store and got these for me before I could look at the ingredients and decide this was a bad idea. So we're going to play the ad because it helps me remember stuff. And again, if you feel like getting up, feel free to join in. And
Gooey, gooey, rich and chewy inside. Golden, flaky, tender, cakey outside. Wrap the inside in the outside. Is it good? Darn tootin'. Doing the big, fig Newton. Here's the tricky part. The big, fig Newton. One more time. The big, fig Newton.
So by now you're thinking, she must be crazy. Why is she standing up there like a giant Fig Newton? Because it really is tricky to leave the matrix. So first of all, anybody have a guess? The person who comes closest without going over gets a Fig Newton to feed to their rats or their cats or whatever. So guess on a year on when that came out? 1965. Nope. Close? 70, I heard 70. 76 was the closest. I'm not going to throw it to you because it would kill you, but you can. Thank you. Okay, and one more. There's always more. For somebody who can show me what the tricky part pose is. Ah, we've got it in the back in the orange sweatshirt. Will somebody please run this back to her for me? Thank you. You better take some herbs or something after you eat those. Okay, so why is it so tricky to leave the matrix? Because our lives are tied up in it. Our beliefs hold us back. We don't necessarily believe we can. And also, it requires sacrifice. We like being able to turn on our heat, sit on our toilet that flushes, have electricity that comes out of the wall, have food we can buy without growing it. We like all these things, and it can be very inconvenient and uncomfortable to endure the process of going through creating something else. So, next slide, please. So, if your brain works like mine, which hopefully it doesn't, I hope, but if it works anything like mine, then when you get overwhelmed, you find it's useful to make a list. How many of you are list makers? Okay, the rest of you are going to hate this next part. So, decided to make a checklist. That's what this thing is the first part of. On my website, paralleltimes.info, is the full checklist. It's about 20 pages long. The checklist itself is only this little second page. But the full checklist has a lot of information about how to do these things. Because there was so much stuff coming at me because of my activism work that I was like flooded in it. It was like, oh my God, how am I going to organize this information? And some of you may have seen when you came in that you were like, on the front table, there was this weird schedule for this event, which didn't go chronologically, which was so annoying. I'm right. It was organized according to the categories of this checklist. And as you see, a lot of everything we're doing at this conference fits into the checklist somehow or another. So these are the categories they've got up on the screen that are in the checklist. And you'll see that, interestingly enough, the first category was beliefs. So what did we start the conference with? Well, we started it with health stuff, but a lot of that was about mental health and our beliefs and how we free our beliefs so that we can move into parallel society. And then yesterday, we did permaculture, and that was a lot about food. Because these are key things. You gotta get your mind right, and you gotta be able to eat in order to do anything else to leave the matrix. Next slide, please. So you'll see that this checklist, if you look on page 2, is laid out by categories on the left, and then the middle column has what have you already done in this area. So right now, while we're standing here, if you have one of these in front of you, I'd like you to find one category that is your top priority for leaving the matrix next. For example, mine is creating alternative revenue streams so that I can get away from the money tyranny. And then think about, in the middle section, what's one thing you have already done in this area? Well, one thing I've already done is coming here and talking to you. And then think about what's one thing you're going to do next in this area. Because if we try to do everything at once, we'll go absolutely nuts. So for me, I use this in my mind to prioritize my action towards my manifestation. And I encourage you to reformat this however works for you. Maybe you need it on multiple pages. Maybe you need it in a spreadsheet. Maybe you don't use it at all, but it gives you some ideas. Use it however it works for you, because it's going to be different for each of us. Okay. And whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Okay, so these are some of the reasons I believe we will succeed in creating parallel society. And the bottom line is because humans are amazing. And we're not supposed to become transhumans. We're supposed to stay humans. And we're actually kind of necessary, I believe, for the whole universe. And because there are these little teeny weenies out there, these kids that we all love. How many of you have kids you love that you don't want to see, right? That's what this is all about for me. Okay. So, if we each step forward with our personal gifts, we all have different gifts, different experience. If we each step forward with what we love, what we're passionate about, what we know how to do, what we want to do, what inspires us, we can do this together, like all those little frogs in Eleanor's story the other day. Next slide, please. So, some resources. I've created an online soil building course with Brianne Bernson, which is amazing. She's amazing. She grows, and that's a connection through John and Rebecca Bush. She grows all the food for her family of 8 while she homeschools her 6 children on less than 1/10 of an acre. She grows 3,000 pounds of food a year. She's a phenomenon. She's figured out how to do it all. She doesn't spend a lot of time gardening because she's got like a great system. and it's all based on good soil. So we have an online course. The code for TGR5 is, ironically, TGR5, and we have a $10 discount during that course. And then just as of today, it went up on the website. She and I are creating a second course, which is a 9-month course, live with Brianne, once a month online, to walk you through, soup to nuts, how to save yourself a ton of money, a ton of time, a ton of stress, growing your food. And the code for that one at paralleltimesuniversity.info is TGR5 Live. And that one includes the soil building course also, because it's prerequisite. And then, if you want help with your first online course, well, first of all, I'm doing a workshop tomorrow on how to create online courses. How many of you have information you'd like to be getting out to the world somehow, but the whole online course thing seems like, ugh. Okay, so I want to demystify that for you. It's going to be at the workshop space tomorrow at 12:45. People will meet Chris in the courtyard, and he'll walk them over. I'll be there earlier. And then also, if you want help creating your first online course, I'm taking just a few people that I'm going to be working with to create courses with no money up front, and we'll do a partner split for that. So come talk to me about that. And then finally, I don't know where we are, Chris is doing a workshop on creating solar power systems for your intentional community, your home, whatever, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So I think that's it. Please come see us at our table across the hall. And I left some kisses for you. Some of you not from the US are like, kisses? You left kisses? Chocolate kisses in the back, and my business cards are in there if you want one. Please come see us, and thank you.
Parallel Times is an information service to help you shift your life out of the matrix and into parallel society. Subscribe at paralleltimes.info for blog posts, podcasts, and interviews. Want to offer an online class that helps build parallel society? Visit paralleltimesuniversity.info to see sample courses now launching, or contact Melanie Rubin at together@paralleltimes.info. Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more.
All right. Welcome back. We're going to continue on with day 3 of the Greater Reset 5. But before we go forward, Melanie had one more thing to offer for everybody in person.
Thanks, I forgot this. So for a t-shirt, does anybody remember what the code is for the soil building class? TGR5. Okay. And does anybody remember what the code is for the TGR5 Live? Ah! I'm not very good at throwing. Chris told me I should do better than that. And if those aren't the right sizes, come and exchange them at our table. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you. Wonderful. And as I mentioned, she's one of the sponsors of our event as well, so this wouldn't be possible without her and our other sponsors. All right, we're going to continue on with another amazing, I don't know if you guys are noticing, we're kind of in the middle of, if you looked at the schedule, we got Melanie, Emma's up next, Tia, Catherine Austin Fitz. We've got a lot of powerful women speaking this morning. So, yeah, make some noise for the women here. So, again, we're speaking about parallel systems, parallel society, and we know that we need new economic systems. We know we need new education systems. But has anybody noticed the last 3 or 4 years we might need new health institutions? I mean, unless anybody in here trusts the World Health Organization and is happy to follow their advice. If so, then you really need this next presentation. But Emma's going to speak to us about the World Council for Health and all the great work they're doing. They really have been building just a worldwide network, offering people information that counters many of the, let's just call it what it is, lies coming from the World Health Organization, garbage, fake news, disinformation, the actual disinformation. And she's going to share all about that with us today. Please welcome Emma Saran to the stage. Come on up, Emma.
Hola, me llamo Emma. No hablo español, pero lo intentaré un poco. Soy de los Estados Unidos. Vivo en Michigan con mi novio y mis hijos y los patos, gallinas y gatos. Esta es mi primer tiempo en México y me encanta. Mucho gusto México y mucho gusto Morelia. Thanks. I don't know if anyone here is as chilly as I am. It's kind of funny, we've had a lot of talks about health, but we're sitting in chairs the whole time, which is just not good for us. So if anybody wants to stand up really quick before I get started and wiggle, because I want to wiggle. Thank you. Beautiful, Matt. That's even better than wiggling. All right. So let's get started. There is a better way for everything. And I am sure that you are all absolutely aware of that because that's why you're here. The cool thing to me about a better way to do things is that there isn't just one better way to do things. Part of the better way to do things is the opportunity that each of us has to do what is best for us as individuals, for our families, and for our communities. The better way is not one blanket better way for everyone. And I've been extremely blessed throughout a lot of my life to be surrounded by people who have for years recognized that there's a better way to do things. And despite constant hurdles, especially the last few years, they've been pushing ahead and continuing. And Derek Brose is a wonderful example of that, and I'm very happy to call him my friend. From independent media to intentional communities to urban CSAs and serving the homeless, it's been amazing to witness the passion and creativity of motivated individuals who don't take no for an answer and who are pushing forward and finding that better way that they know is out there for everyone. So I'm now working with an international collective of amazing and inspiring people who see a better way forward for public health. And so I'm bringing you information today from the perspective of parallel systems. It would be wonderful if everyone could break off into small, independent, intentional communities, but not everybody in the world is ready for that right now. Not everybody has the knowledge, the inspiration, the support, the tools, or even the desire to do that. And many of you here are the doers and the leaders, but for reasons that are part of who we are and where we live and the world we live in, a lot of people aren't leaders and do want someone to give them advice, to sometimes tell them what to do, and to even be in an occasional authority that they can trust. So the World Council for Health was born just over 2 years ago, at a time when it was clear that people all around the world were no longer able to trust their public health institutions, and a lot of people were trusting of their doctors, everything their doctors told them, everything their politicians told them, everything that public health institutions told them, and they learned that they couldn't do that anymore. And that's a very scary place to be. If you had been trusting of all of that and then you fell away from it, everything that you always believed to be true, you're falling and you need someone to catch you and you need someone to help you on that journey. And if you don't get caught, you'll hit the ground pretty hard, and we don't want that to happen. So founded in 2021, the World Council for Health is an international grassroots initiative established by EBMC squared CIC. That's a nonprofit community interest company based in the United Kingdom. We rely on small donations from individuals. We're not funded by governments or big pharma or anything else that would result in a conflict of interest. At WCH, we envision a healthy, free, and sovereign world where everyone has what we need to generate, sustain, and protect our own health and that of our loved ones and our communities, as well as our environments. Our mission includes these 3 focus areas: raising awareness of the root cause of disease, educating on health and self-determination, and co-creating new and highlighting existing integrated health systems. We promote holistic health, and we promote sovereignty. We solve our own problems, we do not take orders from others, we govern ourselves, we are our own land and our own territory, we act on our consciousness, and we know right from wrong. We also live in harmony with nature. Over the last 2 years, we've done a lot at WCH. You can see a little timeline of some of the highlights up there. In that short amount of time, we've grown and we've changed, and we've tried to find ourselves during a time that's full of misinformation and confusion and brainwashing and fear and pain. We're constantly reassessing who we are and what we provide to the public in order to be as effective, helpful, and positive as possible. So we began in 2021 by launching a COVID-19 treatment guide. There's a picture of it right there at the start of that slide. And this guide has been shared now millions of times. From the start, the guide encouraged people to take control of their own health and to not approach illness from a place of fear, which is something that we've carried through all of our work and is really part of the ethos of the World Council for Health. Other key activities in 2021 included our first 100 live and public General Assembly meetings. We featured guest speakers from the medical world, science, legal, activism backgrounds, all kinds of things. Our spike protein detox guide was released, and that includes tips on clearing viral and injection-induced spike proteins from the body using accessible herbs, supplements, and other medicines. This guide is now available in 27 languages, thanks to our amazing team of volunteer translators. That one is very exciting. That guide is available, like I said, in 27 languages. A bunch of our other guides are available in multiple languages as well, and we're constantly trying to add those. We're making sure that things are human translated so that they're very accurate when we're giving health advice and guidance. We don't want to rely on a machine translation for that. We also launched a cease and desist campaign in 2021, and this called for an immediate halt to the use of the COVID injections. This document was printed and delivered to elected officials, clinics, pharmacies, and doctors all around the world, which is very exciting. In 2022, some of our key resources activities included launching a Stop the WHO campaign. In April, we had our first International Better Way conference in May. That was in Bath, UK, and we also live streamed that around the world. In June, we released a pharmacovigilance report, just going into a lot of the data and the science around what's happening with the injections, which has been used to prove that these are not safe and healthy for people, and those have been used by various elected officials and physicians around the world, wherever they work, and to show people, like, here's the proof. And then in July, we launched the Better Way principles that came out of our conference in May. And these are the Better Way principles. I actually have a little flyer of them here. If anybody would be interested in having your own copy and you feel like getting up and walking around, you can come grab one from up here. So our Better Way Charter is a pretty long document that came out of the Better Way conference. We took what was talked about on each day and what each speaker talked about and kind of compiled it into a giant document, and then we refined that even further into these 7 principles. So number 1 is we act in honor and we do no harm. Number 2 is we have free will. Number 3, we are part of nature. Number 4, spirituality is integral to our well-being. Number 5, we thrive together. Number 6, we value different perspectives. And number 7, we use technology with discernment. And I'll talk a little bit about these again later. Thank you. And let's see. Our first policy brief was released in 2023. These are some of our 2023 activities. The policy brief started this year. That's kind of one of the bigger things that we've done in 2023. But you can also see on there that we hosted another World Ivermectin Day, bringing attention to repurposed medicines. We also had our second Better Way conference in the UK. Derek was a speaker at that one. I know Dan Aston Gregory is here. He was a speaker at that. So I love the cross-pollination that happens between events and activities like this. Share a bit more about this policy brief. Our first one was a huge success. If you haven't seen it yet, hopefully some of you have seen it floating around out there. You can find that at worldcouncilforhealth.org/policy. This one is important to look at as the deadline for countries to do something about the World Health Organization proposed amendments to the International Health Regulation is approaching. The World Health Organization is an unelected body with far too much power already. It's attempting a massive power grab that threatens individual and national sovereignty. So we need to do something about that. This policy brief is targeted towards elected officials. All of our policy briefs our elected officials are often making decisions on things that they know little to nothing about. So our policy briefs are phrased in a way that targets individuals like that to educate them on topics that they don't know anything about. So now they can't say that they don't know. So you can buy them on our website, you can print them yourselves, and you can hand deliver them to people if you like to get involved in the political process in that way. And our most recent policy brief was addressing human trafficking, so you can also find that one on our website. Another big thing that we did in 2023 is the Great Reset campaign. This one's been interesting to talk about sometimes on our live shows on Monday when I'm also promoting the Greater Reset and talking about the Great Reset and the Great Reset and the jumbling of words there. I think I invited people by mistake a couple of weeks ago to join me at the Great Reset in Mexico, because I think they figured out what I meant though. So we just launched this, like I said, in 2023. It's a series of emails. We challenge people to set themselves free in a number of really accessible ways. You can kind of think of it as an entry-level challenge to the way many of you here and watching online are already living your lives. From rediscovering nature to using cash, from knowing your inalienable rights to becoming self-sufficient. There's a little bit of everything included in this challenge. You can see some of the challenges at thegreatfreeset.org. It's also really easy to sign up there if you'd like to. It's a great thing for a lot of you, I think, to share too, because like I said, I think a lot of you are well on your way to your own free set journeys now. But everybody at the World Council for Health is very excited about this campaign. We're actually doing it in partnership with Children's Health Defense and any other organizations that like this concept can just take it on themselves and encourage their audience, their followers, their supporters to set themselves free as well. And some of the language associated with this is just highlighting the different things that are under attack by the World Health Organization, by all of these things that are going on, and showing people how this affects them personally, and then giving them a few steps where they can try to use cash more that week in their daily life, try to get out in nature, take their shoes off, stand in the grass, stuff like that. And we want to make sure that we're being positive in almost everything that we do. So as we're talking about the Great Reset and we're talking about all these terrible things that are happening, we're giving people ideas and solutions that they can do that are very accessible and reminding them that we're not powerless to do stuff about all of this. Right on the website it says, we can fix this together. The Great Reset is a people-powered movement with lots of simple and practical ways to say no to these power grabs and efforts to control us. The Great Reset offers vision of the world that is better for our mental and physical health and for our families and communities. When you subscribe, we send you a fortnightly series of emails with practical tips on how you can make positive changes in little and big ways. So members of our Health Science Committee, this is outside of the free set now, and we have one member right here sitting in the front row, Matt Helma. There's two of his papers actually on the slide there. I didn't know he was going to be here this week, so it's wonderful to see Matt. But members like Matt of our Health Science Committee are authoring scientific articles. WCH is constantly releasing new statements and commentary on stuff, press releases. We have a Substack where we're publishing articles on various topics. We have a huge amount of video content coming from all of our different committees as well. Our Mind Health Committee is one of the most active committees, and I'm a member of that one. Every other week or so, we have a webinar on some sort of topic. Like this week's topic was brain fog. A couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago, we had a webinar on mind control. Jason Christoph, who spoke yesterday, presented on that for us. Derek's computer is wanting to do a software update, so I'm just going to say no. So you can find all of those things at our website, worldcouncilforhealth.org. We have a growing network of more than 200 coalition partners. These are not generally individuals, they're organizations, but across a broad spectrum of things, not just health-related. We have news outlets that are partners. We have, well, the Great Reset, The Greater Reset. See, I told you this is hard to talk about. A couple of Derek's organizations are also partners. So if anyone here would be interested in partnering with the World Council for Health, please just let me know, or you can send me an email. Or if you just want to know more about what that entails. Our network is growing all around the world. We have more than 220 partners right now, and they're in more than 55 countries, which is very exciting. So at the World Council for Health, we recognize that all people are different, and as such, individual health, freedom, and sovereignty are at the heart of the Better Way. We aim to empower the world, different countries, different communities, and down to the individual. Because after all, each of us is our own Council for Health. A lot of people will look at the name, the World Council for Health, and wonder if we're just trying to replace the World Health Organization. We're not trying to do that. You can't replace something that's rotten. And we're not trying to be an organization that is telling everybody what to do. We want to empower people to remember that you know what's best for you. Even if it's been buried and hidden from you for generations even. It's deep down in there, and you can find it again. You can take care of yourself. So the World Council for Health is currently in the midst of decentralizing. Not long after we began, we actually started this process. Like I said, we're not here to replace the World Health Organization or any other global organization that assumes authority over people. You cannot replace something that is rotten. You have to build something completely new, so that's what we're doing. We are a vehicle to re-empower national and individual sovereignty through establishing a network of autonomous country councils, coordinating international campaigns through those country councils to inform, support, and activate the public and local leaders by sharing declarations, policies, resources, doing activism, and shared creation of systems for a better way. We currently have 27 activated country councils all around the world. We've taken their flags and put them on our logo and made little logos for them, and we send that off with them, and we send them off with the 7 principles as well. And all of the content that we have, it's freely available to them. We don't tell country councils how to operate or what to be. We just ask that they abide by the 7 principles of a better way, and then they're part of our network, and country council leaders meet together and can share information with each other and help each other and empower each other to not look towards global authority to tell them what to do, but look back into their communities, get back to their roots of what has maybe happened for years in terms of public health in their areas, and get back to that and not listen to authority from above. So if you see your country flag on there, or if you don't, if you want to be involved, if it exists or you want to get one started, please let me know. I can help connect you with the people that are already working on these in the countries that are up there. Or if you want to get one started in your country, it doesn't take much. We're not requiring that these are people with like degrees with massive strings of letters behind their names to set these up. It's real people that are active and involved in the health modalities in their area are the people who can start this. Wrong way, okay. So again, I just wanted to show you the 7 principles, because this is really what guides the development of these country councils and their work and where they're all going. And in general, as the World Council for Health, where are we going? The country councils is a major focus. We wouldn't be upset if we got to a place where the World Council for Health headquarters, the organization based in the UK, maybe someday doesn't have to exist anymore because enough countries have set up their own country councils and they're connected and they're working together. We're aiming for 194 autonomous country councils that will be able to share best practices and policies and empower integrative health approaches and working together to inform emergency responses to whatever crises may arise. There will be integrative health centers in many countries. We're hoping to facilitate that. Thousands of international Better Way aligned country and community initiatives, and people around the world will take back control of their health, reclaim their sovereignty, and step away from fear and be able to say no. So we invite you to be a warrior, not a worrier. This is one of our phrases that we like to repeat a lot at the World Council for Health, and we've made it into a little sticker there that you can see on the screen. We also have a song that I don't have with me to play right now, a warrior song that we play at a lot of our events, empowering people to find your power, be a warrior. Stop worrying about everything that they're trying to make us worry about. So we invite you to do that. Stop worrying. Be strong, calculated, creative. As I imagine many of you know here very well, we cannot comply our way out of tyranny. We cannot react our way out of tyranny. We must create and build our way out of tyranny into our power and into truth. And for anyone who may be wondering, because even though I work with the World Council for Health, I think anytime organizations like this pop up and people who are trying to provide information in this way as a global organization, you have to be really careful. So here's our funding and transparency statement. We have no conflicts of interest. We do not accept support with strings attached. We are funded by events, public contributions, small projects like our online shop. They maintain the integrity and independence of our organization. Our accounts are published annually on the EBMC Squared CIC website. We've achieved much in a very short amount of time, and there's so much more work to be done. So if you would like to support us or get involved in any way, please do. Like I said, Coalition Partners is a wonderful opportunity to do that for a lot of the people and organizations that are represented here today. If you would like to follow the World Council for Health, check out the website, whatever, you can see some of our accounts and usernames up there. And I thought I would actually end with something a little unrelated to the, well, still related, but I have a phrase tattooed on my arm that I got on my arm last time I was in Bath in the UK following the Better Way conference. This is a quote that has meant a lot to me through most of my life. I think I first saw it printed somewhere in 2001. And it's from John Wesley, and it turns out that there's a church, a place in Bath where he built a church that you could see from the venue of where we've had the Better Way conference now for the World Council for Health twice in a row. So from the venue, you can see this location where this person had once built a church, and there's a plaque with his name on it. And that just kind of blew my mind when I realized that there's this quote that I've kind of lived by through the bulk of my life, and he happened to have come to this city and built a church that you can see from this place where I helped create this really cool conference out of nothing. So I wanted to read that to you. It is, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. So thank you. I hope that was a good overview of what the World Council for Health is doing, and I hope some of you would like to partner your organizations. I've got the 7 principles up here. I also have another flyer with a little bit of information about what the World Council for Health is, if you'd like that in a printed form. So I'll have that with me if you want to come grab it or talk more about the World Council for Health. Please just grab me if you see me. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that positive message. I didn't know you had that tattoo. Very cool. All right. How's everybody feeling? Who here had heard of the World Council for Health prior to that talk? A few of you? I do encourage you to check out their work. They're doing a lot of great things. And look, even if you don't align with what the World Council for Health's doing, start your own, right? We don't need just one new alternative to the World Health Organization or these kind of things. That's the beautiful thing about creating parallel systems. If somebody's already doing it and they're doing it in a way that you don't really like or you think you could do it better, we encourage you to do it better. And that's, one of the things that I enjoyed about going to the UK. I actually spoke at the Better Way conference last year, and I was really honored to be there, and that's how we got Dan Aston Gregory, who's speaking on Sunday. And it was just so refreshing for me as somebody who organizes this event to go to the other side of the pond and there's other people who are also focused on solutions with lots of fun accents, and they're so cool and they're so excited. And we did actually in addition to the Better Way conference in Bath, we did 2 Freedom Cell meetups, one in Bristol and one in London. And we had 170 people show up in London. It was the first time I've ever been there. 170 people showed up just ready for this information. So guys, if you ever at home or wherever you're at, if you're ever feeling alone, just recognize we are all over the world. There's so many of us that are focused on solutions, and not just focused on solutions. but actually taking concrete steps. That's what this whole event is about. So rest assured, we are not alone. You guys know that, right? We are not alone. I mean, I can say from experience, maybe you guys can relate to this. When I first started waking up in late 2009, 2010, it happened with a combination of things. In 1 week, I watched an Alex Jones documentary, Endgame. Anybody seen Endgame? If not, if you can handle the really kind of doom, fear porn that's in there, unfortunately, it was very correct. That documentary came out in 2006. Go back and watch it. You can see it on YouTube, and you're going to be like, oh, wow, this is everything we're living now. And I watched that documentary. I heard a man named Ron Paul speak at the University of Houston. Anybody remember Ron Paul, who's been a champion for liberty for a long time? And then I was reading a book, and then I was listening to a band that was talking about the Federal Reserve. All of this happened to me in 1 week, and by the end of that week, my entire life had changed. And what happened for me is I immediately felt afraid and alone. I felt terrified, like, oh my God, how can this be happening? And all these people are just walking around, going about their days. Why doesn't anybody see this? And then, of course, as is typical, I started freaking out and trying to tell everybody as many times as I can, and then, pushing people away, and people like, you're crazy, Derek, you've lost your mind. And it took a little bit for me to get past that stage, which I tend to call the Alex Jones phase. The kind of fear, like anger, like, it's all about to happen. Well, it wasn't about to happen in 2010. And once I calmed down, I realized I just need to find more people. And as I'm going to share later tonight, I'm going to be the final presentation today. I've just taken as many actions as I could over the last 14 years to not feel alone. That's what it really all comes down to, is to recognize that you guys are out there. I remember so clearly that feeling of being in Houston and learning about fluoride in the water and learning about the police state growing and the cops are doing all this, and immediately starting to print up flyers and putting them around my neighborhood. And then a couple days later, I went out and somebody tore down the fluoride poster, and I was like, oh, I got to do it again. I just got to keep doing it. And before I knew it, I met 5 other people that didn't think I was crazy. And we started a group called the Houston Freethinkers. And before you know it, we became a force in Houston. We helped do so many good things that I'm going to share about later. We helped people realize that they weren't alone. We had a community house where we were doing documentary screenings, skill shares, community gardening, just bringing people together. And I just want to remind you that that is one of the most powerful things we can do. All the tools we're sharing this week are important. But letting somebody know they're not alone is so powerful. You guys had that experience. Like, that's why we come here and we feel so free. Anybody else feel free to just be themselves here? We hope you do, because that's what this is about. It doesn't matter what background you come from, what country you come from, what language you speak, what music you listen to, what diet you have. We're all welcome here, and we grow from each other, we learn from each other, and that's such a beautiful feeling. And I can honestly say, because of the Greater Reset, I mean, it's such a humbling thing to get these emails from people saying, Derek, I watched the first Greater Reset in January 2021. I was locked down in Denmark or Germany or whatever. Then I watched the second one. Now I have a garden. And then now I came to the third one. And now I'm here for the fourth one. Now I'm speaking at the fifth one, to watch and listen to people's journeys. Again, our theme is manifestation, and that's what this whole thing is about. We hope that those of you who've been watching at home and those of you who've been a part of this journey, that from the Greater Reset 1 in January 2021 to where we are now, that you've actually taken some steps in your life to change your lives, because otherwise, this is all meaningless. If we keep coming together once a year and we have a good time, but then we go home and nothing changes, then nothing changes, right? So just remember that all the good vibes and all the good conversations and the knowledge and the notes you're taking, it matters most when you get home, back to the busy life that you have in the regular, quote unquote, real world. Don't let this feeling fade. Don't let the activation fade. And we're going to be talking more about the evolution of the Greater Reset on Sunday. I hope you guys will stay for that. But rest assured, this is not just a once-a-year thing. We want you to live the activation every single day. Don't forget the momentum that you feel right now, the excitement that you feel when you know this is possible. Like Melanie said earlier, we're doing something that's never been done before. And none of us really know what it's going to look like, but we know that the little ones are counting on us. And the way I often explain it is that our ancestors are also counting on us. No matter where you come from on this planet, each of our ancestors had to struggle through blood, sweat, and tears in different ways to make sure that we could just be alive and be here. And now we live in this modern world where life is very easy for us compared to those in the past. And I often think about my ancestors. And as a person who has native blood in me, an indigenous person, I don't know a lot of my ancestors. There's so much history lost. There's so much that, my family doesn't want to look back and doesn't want to talk about things. And often I can feel disconnected from them, but at the end of the day, I know that they're with me, and your ancestors are with you. And the other side, when we look forward, the 7 generations and beyond are also counting on us. 100%. They are counting on us. They're not even here yet. They're a seed waiting to be born, and they don't know what's waiting for them. But I know that we're the ones that get to decide that. And I take so much strength from that. And I hope you guys will as well, to recognize that this is an opportunity. We are the ones, no matter what background, what age you are, we have so many different generations represented here. We are the ones that get to make the change in this world, guys. So I take that as a great honor, and I hope you will as well. All right. I'm going to mention, thank you guys. I'm going to mention a couple other housekeeping things for tonight's activities here at 6 to 8 p.m. We do have the Music Temple hosted by Luke, who's one of our good friends. And I believe he's going to try to do the music under that beautiful octagon dome there tonight. So if you want to come in here and have some good vibrations, bring your instruments, bring your voice, 6 to 8 p.m. here for those in person. That'll be happening tonight. And yeah, there's workshops this afternoon. Other housekeeping announcement you might have seen on Telegram, or you might be noticing in the green space over here, there's something going on. They're having a concert there today. So all the workshops in the green space are going to be on this side of the building. So if you have a workshop you're trying to attend at lunch or this evening, most of them are going to be here or at the other venue down the street. And yeah, you ready? Yeah, all right. Well, this is another awesome presenter that I'm excited to bring to the stage, because I feel like I'm just meeting so many good people in my travels. And Tia Severino is the host of the Next Steps Conference, doing very similar things to what we're doing here. Please give her your full attention and welcome her to the stage.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Derek, so much for bringing me here to beautiful Mexico. It's my first time here. Anybody else, it's your first time in Mexico? Yeah? Isn't it beautiful? It's beautiful. So thank you for coming and for attending and bringing your spirits and your energy here. This is such an important time, and we were really standing at a crossroads in our experience as humans, where we have a dystopian future being planned for us, yes, but we have other ideas. We want something better, right? That's why we're here, right? Isn't that why we're here? Who's activated? I need you guys to be activated for this, okay? That's why we're here. Because in some way inside of each of you, you already know that in order to survive what they've got planned for us, we must build a parallel society so that we can survive. But not only survive, we want to thrive, right? Okay. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Now, who am I? Humbly, I must say I am a mom. And the reason that I'm doing the things that I do is because my kids got hurt by the pharmaceutical beast, pharmakeia. Everybody knows where the word pharmakeia comes from, right? It's the Greek for sorcery using potions and drugs. It is the root word for pharmacy, okay? And our pharmaceutical industry is just that, I think, a tool for evil and sorcery. I have been fighting for awareness about vaccines for many years. In 2016, I got involved with a little upstart film. Anybody in here heard of the movie Vaxxed, From Cover Up to Catastrophe? Okay, great little film about the whistleblower at the CDC, not Andy Wakefield. Okay, that's what they want you to think in the media, that it's just an anti-vaccine movie. It's actually about a whistleblower at the CDC. Well, I was part of the grassroots movement that made that film a success across the nation and around the world. And I continued to work with the folks that made the film, helped with the movie Vaxxed 2, The People's Truth. Went on to do some journalism with my own show on UI Media called The People's Truth with Tia Severino. And I've been doing events since 2009, but Next Steps was born out of me looking around and saying, fighting this monster is not getting us anywhere. We have got to start looking for solutions and ways to build. So that's what Next Steps is about, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on, but I want to get into the meat and potatoes of what I'm here to talk about, and that is, what are you going to choose? Because I know for me, I am not going to bow down to this global tyranny. I'm not going to eat the bugs. I like my meat. If you don't eat meat, I don't have any issues with you with that, but I'm not going to eat bugs. And I got myself out of the matrix a while back. I like to think of myself as somebody who tries to help pull others out. So I'm not going to sit by and watch the CBDC get enacted globally with no other alternatives. I'm not going to live in a 15-minute city. I'm not going to own nothing and be happy. I'm just not going to comply. I'm not going to comply. And I really encourage you to take your power that you have and do not comply, okay? But that's not enough. Resistance is not enough. Have you heard the phrase, what you resist persists? Okay, so many of us are like, I have people come up to me all the time, Tia, how are we going to stop him? How are we going to stop the plan? I don't know if we can. Be honest with you, this is a multi-generational ancient plan. It's not the New World Order, it's the Luciferian World Order, okay? It's been here longer than we've been on this planet, and it'll probably be here once we're gone because we don't live forever, right? I'm not gonna live forever, you're not gonna live forever. So unless the skies open up and the Savior returns and we're whisked away to utopia, which sounds great, but I'm more of the mind that we can have heaven on earth. We are the dreamers. We can either choose to dream the dream of hell that society is presenting to us, or we can begin to dream of heaven. And that's what I present to you, the alternative, which is to grow and build and thrive and get so many of us that they just can't enact their plans because no one's going along with it. Who's with me? All right. All right. See if I can make this thing go. Okay. So we know that they plan. They've been planning for generations, right? They're doing it right now, aren't they? Isn't that why we're here at the Greater Reset? Because they're having their Great Reset meeting right now? So they're planning. So let's talk about their plan. It's multi-generational. That means that they don't care if it's enacted in their lifetime. They are raising up their children to do the bidding of the plan. It involves complete control of every aspect of society. They want a global one world government, one world religion, one world currency. And they make it sound good, don't they? Man, who wouldn't want it? They have complete control of education from preschool through graduate school. They have their tentacles in science and medicine. We talked about pharmacia. They have the media and the entertainment industry. Who's fans from the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s stood up to this tyranny? Where are the protest singers for this generation? There ain't no rock and roll. They all sold out, right? So they've got our entertainers, they've got our filmmakers, they've got the supply chain, they're controlling our food, they're feeding our kids poison. They're making us sick because sick people are easier to control, and they're making us afraid because fear is a great controlling method also. And it is a caste system. You do realize that we live in a caste system, right? We hear about it all the time, social inequality, and they act like they're for getting rid of that, right? But they're not. They're not. They're pouring fuel on the flames. So let's talk about our plan. Our plan's way better. I like our plan better. So our plan is, first of all, reinstate strong family and community. The family has been under attack for so long. And in many cultures and communities, it's been destroyed. Whole histories and ancestries wiped away. We need to reinstate that. We need to get back to community. Maybe get off of the devices a little bit and start connecting with people in person. Get to know your neighbors for a change. We have a daunting task. We have to create alternatives to every aspect of society. And I have been told this is an idealistic plan, going to be really hard to enact, and that's true. So I'm going to talk to you about how this may happen and how we can be a part of it. We've got to make sure that we have all the elements of a functioning society so that others who are trapped in the tyranny can see an alternative. Because over the last almost 4 years now, everybody's been going along to get along. But so many people are waking up now and they want something else. We have to build that for them, and then they will come. Okay, I'm going to move on. One last thing I do want to say. Massive non-compliance and us connecting to each other, networking and building these alternatives, that's their biggest fear. They're not afraid of us throwing, grenades at their institutions. They really aren't. They hope that that's what we do, is spend all of our time fighting and none of our energy is left over for building. Okay, who's building the parallel society? I want to say that there are so many people around the world who are already building the parts of the parallel society. Now I know some people are going to balk at this, okay? And you're right to, but we do have some good people in government. All around the world, there's some good people that are standing up and trying to do the right thing. The problem is the system is so corrupt that they're very often not able to accomplish what they want to do. But we can't throw away the good people in society. We have to remember that there are more good people than bad people, and that we can take back our power. So I encourage you to at least get to know who your politicians are. Don't just say, oh, that's not for me. I don't want to know anything about it because I don't understand it and it upsets me. If you don't know who your local representatives are, who your people are that are making the laws that are going to affect you, then you don't really, I don't know. I don't think we're going to be able to get out of this situation without some form of government. Anarchy sounds great, but there's always somebody that wants to climb to the top. So let's acknowledge that there are some good people in government and in law enforcement. Many people in here may say, no, I want anarchy. What are you going to do when the roving bands come to take away what you've got? You have to have some form of security. You have to have some kind of protection. So those things are important. Maybe more important, though, is that we need the spiritual leaders. We need the gurus, right? We need the people that can give us hope and inspire us, and they are out there. There are good people who are leading people spiritually. Community agriculture, we talked about that yesterday, right? A lot of people are thinking about growing food, getting a garden started, and I encourage you to do that, but I also encourage you to connect with other people that are also growing food around you. Build connections with your local communities. Okay, God, take over. You guys, I'm so excited to be here. I just want you to know that, there are so many wonderful things happening, and there are so many solutions, people coming together, and we can do this. We just need to keep in mind that we are all created beings, and God has put a purpose on each and every one of our souls. And that's why I just asked him to step in a minute ago, because this isn't my message. I have no business being up here. I'm just a mom. But God put on my heart to build, and to stop fighting and to build. And so that's why I'm here. So let me see if I can get back to my slides. Oh, no. Here we go. Okay. So, worldwide seeds of a parallel society are sprouting. sustainable communities, secure communication networks, and alternative education models. The key to success lies in networking these initiatives, transforming isolated efforts into a unified, resilient community. This cohesive approach paves the way for a viable, impactful alternative to our current societal structures, inviting broader participation and reinforcing our collective strengths. So I looked around and I saw that there are people that are building parts of the parallel society. We still have good doctors. We still have good scientists. We have incredible natural healers. There are citizen journalists like Derek standing up and putting the truth out there. We've got incredible educators. Many of them are homeschoolers. Anybody in here homeschool? Any homeschoolers? Okay. All right. I want you to think about what's going on in our schools, right? We've got to get these kids out of the state-sponsored indoctrination camps. It is just terrible what is happening to the children, but we can do better. Okay, so what are the next steps to building a parallel society? First of all, I have to start with me. I have to make sure that my house is in order, that I'm healthy, that I'm strong, that I am prepared for what is coming, that my family is prepared, that we have a plan, that we have the basic essential necessities that we need in life to survive what's coming in place. And that includes food security, water, everything you guys can think of. Any preppers in the room? Few preppers? Okay, you don't have to admit it. Okay, it's cool. We're not coming for your stuff, man. No, I'm kidding. But does anybody think that they're going to let us just go, get a farm out in the country and grow food and disconnect from society and leave us alone? Because I don't think so. I think if we try to do that, all it's going to take is for them to come and make an example out of a few of us, right? So that means that we have to build community. So once I have my house in order, I look around and I see who in my community is like-minded, that I can have their back and they can have my back, that I have skills that I can share with them and they have skills that they can share with me, and that we can have an exchange, a mutual beneficial exchange. I think there's a little organization or a movement called Freedom Cells. That was not a very enthusiastic acknowledgement of Freedom Cells. Who's the Freedom Cells in the group? Okay, there's a few. Okay, well, so we're growing, right? But that's the idea, is you start getting a community, a local community, where everybody has each other's back, okay? And where people have cohesive goals. Who was at the networking thing last night? Okay, so that's an example of taking it to the next level, right? The next step, the next level, we're always looking to level up, right? There are people who have land who are looking for people to come and join them in building. There are people who are looking to join communities, intentional communities, shared goals, shared collaborative skills, all right? And then do we want to start over though, like from scratch? You guys like plumbing, right? Electricity's good? Can we keep some of the good stuff that medicine has done? I mean, it's not all bad. I just fell and broke my wrist and ankle back in May. And I had to go to a hospital, man. There was no other options. And I had to take pharmaceutical medications. I really didn't want to, but I had to. So there's still some good things that we've accomplished in society. What we want to do is we want to take the good and get rid of the tyranny, right? Yeah, because going into a hospital nowadays is absolutely terrifying. Iatrogenic causes, meaning caused by medical mistakes, the third leading cause of death. That means a doctor effed up and you died. Stay out of hospitals if you can, but if you need it for emergencies, so we want to make sure that we've got the good stuff. I mean, I know that this thing is spying on me, but we've got alternatives, right? Above phone, I think, okay, I may have to get one of those. All right, and so we want to build, we don't want to take an off-ramp and go way over here and start over. We want to kind of track alongside the society that exists, because some of us still have to work jobs in that society, some of us still have to interact. Well, we all have to interact. And, you know, I'm personally a Christian, and the Bible does say God installs the governments and we're supposed to obey the law unless it conflicts with God's law, right? That's just my personal take on things. So while there is a government, we will still have to deal with that fact until we build a society strong enough that we can take the government back, right? Who's for that? Right? Right. Okay. And we want to attract other people to come over because massive non-compliance is the only way out. So all those people that are going along to get along, the middle, the people that are kind of waking up right now, looking around going, oh my God, we got to show them there's a better way, and attract them and grow our numbers. Okay. Do I have any Marvel fans? Anybody like the Marvel movies? Okay. Okay. Fair enough. I want you to imagine a realm within the multiverse where heroes are outnumbered and outmaneuvered by villains. Kind of sounds like the world we're in, right? This realm mirrors our world's current challenges, environmental crises, social inequalities, and political turmoil. In this version of reality, the villains, representing the failings and challenges of our society, they've joined forces and taken total control. Our heroes and heroines, symbols of our best qualities and aspirations, are overwhelmed. Their efforts to save the world always just falling short. Faced with such insurmountable odds, these guardians of hope realize that their survival hinges on building a new world, a parallel society where the rules of the game are different and the potential for innovation and change is boundless. Anybody want to be a superhero? Okay, we get to be the superheroes because it really is up to us. It's really up to us to lead the way. Everybody that came here, that took their time to be here, you have a special role to play in this new realm, this new version of reality that we want to create. Okay. How am I doing so far? Great. Right. Okay. All right, so where are my gamers? Anybody into playing games? Few games? Anybody ever played Minecraft? You've heard of it, right? Okay. So when you start out in Minecraft, what do you got to do? First thing you got to do is you got to rush and get materials to build a house, because there's day and night in Minecraft, and nighttime the bad guys come out. And you need protection, right? So you got to build a world. So it's kind of like, think of it like that. We're going to start building a world as if it were in a game. Kind of think of it like a game. Life is a game. You've heard that before, right? Life is a game, and it is what you make of it. True? So, starting out with family, just as you would begin to build a world within a game, start at home. Make sure that you are prepared, that your family has everything that they need. And I'm not kidding, you guys. The pandemic was just a little tiny taste of what's to come. You guys noticed how the supply chains just shut down, and everybody was looking for literal COVID gold in the form of sheets of paper on a roll of cardboard, right? Make sure you've got what you need. Make sure that you're taken care of, and make sure, more importantly than just physically preparing with like food and water and ammo and other stuff, make sure that you're mentally prepared, that you're spiritually prepared, that you're emotionally prepared, and that you are physically strong as you can be for where you are in your life. You know, some kind of exercise, prayer and meditation, things like that. And just as I said, there's not going to be a way out for us to just go have our little homesteads. I've got my little homestead in the works, okay? But I know that if we don't connect with others, even if you're in an intentional community and you have a large group of people all, working in the same area, like if you're just an isolated pocket, man, that's not good enough. We have to connect. So after you have your local community built, and it can start as simple as a neighborhood watch or a freedom cell or just, community group. It doesn't have to be your neighbors. It's great if you can find some actual physical neighbors close to you that you can be on the same page with, but get that community going and make sure that it expands beyond just your local community, okay? Think of it as the outworld. We want to bring people in, we want to connect different communities, and we want to share knowledge and skills. So let's talk about the elements of a successful strategy. Since the bosses and / the villains of our world have captured all aspects of society, we need to create our own alternatives, all while extracting the good that has been accomplished as much as possible. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to eliminate the controller's power grip on the game, okay? So we need a parallel economy. We need parallel technology. We need parallel healthcare, parallel education, and we need to develop our own supply chain. Agreed? Yeah. Okay. I mean, because right now, if the truckers decide to say we're not trucking anymore, we're all in a big world of hurt, right? Because most of us are still relying on the grocery stores a lot for our food, right? So we also need to figure out how we're going to get goods around. Let's just review the elements of a society, okay? So we have government and law. Agreed, very broken systems, but we do still need to work within. And that's why we're talking about a parallel society, you guys, and not an alternative, separate, society away from the world that we live in now. I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself. Am I repeating myself? Repetition is good, right? Okay. All right, so government and law, let's try to support the good people that are trying to fight for us in the tyranny. They deserve our support. We need to build a parallel economy. Now, how do we start doing that? Start buying from small businesses. Consider getting some of your meat from a local farmer. Actually think about ways that you can barter with people in your community so that we can get away from the fiat money. If you have children or grandchildren, get them out of the state-sponsored indoctrination camps. You know what I'm talking about when I say that, right? Public school. Private schools are almost just as bad nowadays, too. We've got to get the youth back and get that's our future. If we don't stop the indoctrination of our youth, it's going to be really hard times for us. I'm getting older. They're going to take over soon. We got to make sure we got good people. So we do have good doctors still. Has anybody heard of the frontline doctors or FLCCC, McCullough, Corey? Got some great doctors that are out there. They really, some of them have just woken up too, you guys. They've just woken up and started really fighting hard for us. There are a lot of alternatives to pharmakeia and allopathic medicine, but if you do need allopathic care, I recommend getting a functional medicine doctor, okay? Functional medicine doctors look more at the whole body and what is going on rather than trying to treat symptoms with drugs. I have a really good friend named Kimberly Overton who has started something called Nurse Freedom Network and Remnant Nursing, which is an alternative structure for nurses who Many of them walked away from the tyranny in the hospitals. Many of them saw people being murdered in the hospital with the protocols, right? And so she's creating this structure for nurses to, it's a PMA. You guys know about PMAs, right? Okay. It's a better structure, I think. You buy a membership and then you exchange within your association, and so people can get direct access to a nurse, to other healthcare practitioners. There are people who are building these parts, and I'm just trying to get everybody to connect. Okay. We're getting excited again. Woo. Okay. So one of the reasons that I'm here, and I hope to inspire everyone to get into action, that's the message. Go home, get your house in order, find the people in your community to connect with, and start building, okay? Doesn't have to look like what I'm suggesting, just start building. You know, everybody has their own passion, their own dream, and we just need to start dreaming the dream of heaven, right? But one of the other reasons why I'm here is I want to let you guys know about my upcoming conference that is in March of this year in the United States, in Georgia, just a little bit north of Atlanta. And we're really bringing together solutions-oriented people who bring actionable items that you can actually take away from. Let me move on here. Okay. So I was talking about all those really cool people that are building the parts of the parallel society, right? So many of them are going to be at Next Steps. One of the reasons why Derek has been a speaker at the last two and will be a recurring speaker is because is so aligned with what he's doing and with what we're doing here at the Greater Reset. So what is Next Steps? It is a 4-day conference. We start out on Thursday. There's going to be some morning activities to get you physically going and spiritually connected and ready to go. And then the first day is all about healing. So we're going to start off with a panel on detoxing, which I don't know about any of you. Has anybody done a detox before? Okay, so you know it's very important that we detox because they are pounding us with chemicals from every direction, right? Pounding us, like the food, the water, the air, everything is chemicals. And so we're going to start off with a workshop on a session on detox, and then we're going to move into natural healing. So I have some amazing speakers lined up for this, and you're going to learn about so many different ways that you can take your power back with natural healing. Then we'll have a film screening, which if anybody knows of a good film that needs to be screened, I am still looking for this film that's going to be the perfect fit for Next Steps. If you happen to know of a film, or if you have a film and you're interested, please let me know. So day 1 is heal. So you guys have like a theme for every day here at the Greater Reset, right? Right? So it's kind of the same thing at Next Steps. There's a theme for every day. And the second day is connect, and it's all about connections. We're going to be talking about food, we're going to be talking about community security, and we're going to be talking about connecting the parallel healthcare system. And then on Friday night, there's a networking event, which is going to be just lots of activities to get you thinking about how you can get into action. On day 3, which is a Saturday, the theme is Thrive. And we're going to be talking about finance, we're going to be talking about education, we're going to be talking about media, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about taking your power back with your health. Okay, you guys are getting bored. I'm sorry. It's just another event that's really like a retreat in a beautiful location, and I hope that some of you might join us and consider, building with us, because that's what it's about. It's about bringing together people for solutions, focusing on the solutions. So many times I go and listen to people talk and they don't bring solutions. So I want to encourage you, and I'm going to give you some next steps. That's part of the theme of Next Steps, is that every speaker brings action items, okay? And so for you, I would say your 3 next steps is make sure that you are prepared for what is coming. If you haven't started prepping, now's the time. If you haven't started growing food for yourself, now's the time. Get some soil, get some seeds, start from scratch. I started in 2020 trying to grow, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I lived in a very shady area where I just didn't get any sun, and I was so sad, and I had what I called micro harvests. Like, look, babe, we have 5 green beans, a cucumber, and 3 cherry tomatoes. But I grew it, and it gave me hope. And in 2020, we bought 2.5 acres out in the beautiful North Georgia countryside. And I started trying to grow some food up there with what I call a garden of neglect, because I'm still living in the suburbs, but we're like doing the weekend warrior thing, going up to the country to try and get this thing started. So I just threw things in the ground, and man, what'd you know? I had enough to make tomato sauce. I had pickles and peppers. I had cucumbers and peppers that I could pickle. And, I learned that I could actually grow food without being there to take care of it. So now I know if I'm there to take care of it, I can really grow. But my point is I've been learning to grow through the pandemic. And if you haven't tried to start growing food for yourself, please get started, even if it's just a little container on your front porch with some tomatoes in it. It will give you a sense of connection to your food that is invaluable. Second step is to find some people in your community. Start with 2 or 3 people that are like-minded. They don't have to live right next to you, but find some people in your community that can be like-minded, and then start having meetings. I do a meeting once a month called Agents of Truth. It's at a restaurant that lets us meet there because we eat, so they don't charge us. And it's between 30 and 50 people that show up. I get a speaker to come in and talk about different things, and they're all freedom-minded people. We started during the pandemic when nobody was getting together in person, so people really were excited about it. And that's my timer letting me know that I am done, and yeah. Did I get this last one? I have a couple more minutes? Okay, how do I get this? There we go. Awesome. Yeah, well, that's my last slide, and it's got my contact information. Don't worry about writing it down because I have a little half table out there. You can see my pop-up banner that says Next Steps. I have flyers. Please come take some of the flyers. I don't want to take these home with me, okay? I really take a stack, hand them out, give them to your friends. Even if you don't think you can make it to America for this, if you aren't from the States and you're here local, if you know anyone that likes to go to the States, pass the information along. We will be doing a live stream of the event, and you can get tickets for that at next-steps.info. And I wish I could do it for free like you're doing it, Derek. Maybe you got to talk to me and figure that out. But yeah, so we really would love to see you there, and come and talk to me. If you've got something that you feel is a solution, that's what Next Steps is about. So I'm still looking for some really good people to kind of connect into what we're doing. And come and talk to me. And thank you so much, Derek, for letting me come and ramble on and talk about things that I love.
Yes, make some noise for Tia and the Next Steps Conference. All right. You guys feeling good? All right, it's just about time for lunch. We're going to pick it up after lunch. I'm going to be speaking today, so I hope you guys will come back. I've got a lot to share. We've also got Catherine Austin Fitz coming up after lunch, Sterling Lujan, David Rodriguez, who's just really powerful speaker, and then I'll be closing things out. Want to mention one more time, if you are going to be doing workshops and it says green space, that's going to be to the green space over this way behind the building on this side, unless it says the other venue. Also want to remind everybody, we do have one excursion left. Unfortunately, we didn't get anybody to sign up for the others, so there's going to be an excursion to the pyramids. If you're staying for a couple of days after the event here in Morelia and you're interested in that, please go out and see the table in the middle of the lobby there. And we're going to hear from Ramiro right now, Hakeem, real quick about the above phone. Anybody know about the above phone? You got one yet?
What's up, beautiful people? Is everyone getting excited for their parallel economy? Gonna go home and find that side hustle or third hustle and build those income streams? Well, I want to help you. You guys know we have a above phone booth outside, and one of our missions has always been to give people universal internet utilities. What does that really mean? Ways that we can communicate privately with each other. Imagine Zoom without AI scanning, or maps that can be completely offline. When they try to shut down these technological services we rely on, we need to have a backup plan. And above phone is that. So I just wanted to remind you that we have above phones available all this week at heavily discounted prices. And we're actually doing a setup call Monday following the event it's going to be live streamed as well. So if you purchase a phone here, or even if you're a previous above phone customer, we're going to be able to help you and get you set up. And again, it works with any cell service. And you can get any app you want on it. So it's really the best of both worlds. So would love to give you more information on that. Definitely come find us. And here's to building a better world. Thank you guys.